Well, hello and welcome to day, what is it, 6, 7, 8, whatever it is, of our daily podcast looking at Scotland's performances and build up for Euro 2024. Bill, it's been a day of reflection since we lost to that Germany game.
Yeah.
Are you feeling a wee bit better about things?
It's taken me till today to get the kind of, it's a word, anger. I don't know, probably is a wee bit of anger.
Yeah.
A wee bit of everything. Yesterday I didn't, one of those days where you think, I don't want to hear what anybody else thinks about us, I just want to deal with it. And I wonder, again, I've talked about this in the build-up, what do players feel like? We keep hearing that, we're embarrassed, we're humiliated, whatever. But I actually wonder, when they think about it themselves, how they deal with that kind of disappointing night at the office.
Yeah. We're just back from the Scotland press conference. Steve Clarke was talking about it. He fronted up, decided he was the one to talk about the game, reflect on it. Usually it's a player that speaks to the press on a day like today, but Steve Clarke fronted up. He spoke about kicking some backsides.
Yep.
It was one of the lines out the press conference, giving some cuddles. He's got to get it right in equal measure, Bill, because there was some bad performances in there, there's no getting away from it, so you can imagine he's going to have some harsh words for some of the players, but he does need to put an arm around some of them.
Well, there are some players, managers will tell you, some players need the kick up the backside, some players react really badly to it. Some players need to be cuddled and loved, and other players don't like that. James Morrison talked about when he was a player under Steve Clarke at West Brom, and now he's a coach under him in the Scotland squad, about how he got his game to new levels under Clarke because of the tough love he got every day. He basically got told, raise your game or you're not playing. Yeah. And that's what he needed. Other players would crumble with that.
Yeah, one of the things Steve Clarke was talking about, which I thought was quite interesting, was the idea that the players didn't take on board exactly what he was expecting from them. That the information, the tactics he was giving them didn't quite get across, that he maybe gave them too much information.
Possibly.
And I think one of the things he's maybe referring to is Tony Cruz getting too much space, because it was clearly not working how much influence he had in the game. So he's clearly reflected in that. But
Yep.
is that understandable that players, even in a big game like that, we think we've got top players, but should they be taking on the wrong information in a game like that? I was surprised to hear that.
Well, depends, as you say, if there's too much information or not. Without getting too psychological and stuff, human brain can at one time can cope with between 7 and 9 pieces of information before things start to fall off the end. If you're somebody who gets overwhelmed by information, a guy like John McGinn plays at Aston Villa, where Unai Emery is information daft. Other players might prefer to just be left to play.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, the Tony Cruz one's interesting. A German guy asked John McGinn in the mix zone afterwards, do you regret not man-marking Tony Cruz? Now, it wasn't his job to decide whether Tony Cruz was getting man-marked or not, but he said, he just played it with a flat bat and said, that's something we can't change now, but we'll have a look at it.
Yeah.
Which suggests to me that the players were maybe saying we should be closer to this guy.
Yeah. We spoke to Callum McGregor yesterday as well, and Steve Clarke echoed this, that the players are annoyed, they're angry, they're hurting.
Yes.
That's got to be a good thing, isn't it? They have to be, because we all are, in the back of that performance, the fans, the press, everyone, we're bitterly disappointed because we know these boys are better than they showed.
Well, I think the thing that annoyed me was, I don't want to get on the Tartan Army's back. There's a lot of guys on Friday night still doing no Scotland, no party, and carrying on as if nothing had happened. Now, I'm not suggesting, I've written a piece about this for tomorrow's paper, I'm not suggesting we should get out and riot when we lose. But I just wanted to be on my own and get away from all that stuff. And maybe I'm an exception, I don't know. But I genuinely think reflection is more important than pretending it hasn't happened.
Yeah, the fans do listen. We all know how good the Scotland fans are. They're here in their droves. It's fantastic to see. They've spent a lot of money here to get here. Time off work, leaving whatever behind to come. So you would think they would be a wee bit more kind of not disappointed. They're clearly disappointed, but they just seem to, when the game finishes, just pick a switch, don't they? They just get back. Maybe that's a good thing. Maybe we've got to. Maybe that is a good thing. I don't know.
I don't personally think it is. I think if you don't hold the people accountable, show people. For instance, we keep hearing that, we might have mentioned this before in one of our 10 million podcasts in the last week, that a guy like Scott McTominay or Andy Robertson or Callum McGregor will tell you that all the time, every day in their clubs, they're told win.
Yeah.
I don't feel sometimes as if the Tartan Army do that with Scotland. It's we'll support you ever more, whatever the score is, all that kind of stuff. And I'm not saying we should.
Saying that, would that help, Bill? If we've got fans screaming at the players after that game, would that help?
No, I think there's a balance. I don't think you want to go back to Argentina, for those of us old enough.
Far too young.
We waved them off.
Far too young.
we waved them off and it was, we're heroes, we're going to win the World Cup. We believe what Ali McLeod told us. And then after the second game, they're hanging over the barriers and screaming and shouting and trying to get at players. I don't think you need to go to those extremes.
Yeah.
But in the middle somewhere, there's a, oh my God, we just got beat 5-1 in a game that we've been waiting for 26 years.
Yeah.
I think we need to go away and think about ourselves here.
Yeah. I think it's a balance, isn't it? Because as we say, Steve Clarke was talking about that, how he put his arm around some players and he kicks on backsides with others. He wouldn't actually elaborate on who he did to who, you know. But
it'd be interesting to know, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but what he did say though was that Ryan Porteous did have an arm around his shoulder, and understandably, listen, I thought it was a dreadful tackle. I think he's got in this situation he has to try and make a block, not a tackle, and he makes that mistake. But equally, the boy's human. He was doing his best for Scotland. He's not trying to get sent off.
And also, we know he has that in him, so nobody's surprised. I mean, I think the growth in Ryan Porteous since he left Hibs is enormous. He's done brilliantly for Watford. He's played really well for them. He's led for them from the back. He was, as was mentioned by more than one player, he was part of a Scotland defence that went kind of 6-7 games without losing a goal to decent opposition. So he's done well for us, but he's got that moment of rashness in him. And he'll have to live with that and regret it. I would think, if I was guessing at players that would get an arm around them, it would be more likely to be Angus Gunn. Because he's going to have to keep that shirt on. It would be Porteous, who obviously feels as if he's let him down. It would be Tony Ralston, who probably your fourth choice to play right back, and who had a fairly tortuous time. Whereas I think the guys who would expect a kicking would be John McGinn, would be Scott McTominay, would be Kieran Tierney, would be Andy Robertson. And McGinn said himself the other night that the grown-ups in the group have to take more responsibility.
Steve Clarke said in his press conference with the broadcast guys, he went into a room and did a separate with the daily newspaper guys. You can read that in the paper tomorrow, or from about 10:30 this evening. He fronted up, and I think we need to give him a fair degree of credit for that. I don't think he's immune to criticism, far from it. I think he picked the wrong team, and regardless of where the things, it probably wouldn't have made a whole lot of difference really, because there was too many players who didn't turn up. But Steve Clarke, as I say, he's not immune to criticism, isn't he? He's done a fantastic job. I don't want anyone else as a Scotland manager right now, but he has to take this flag a leap. It's on him as much as it's on the players. He
has to, and I'll repeat what we said yesterday when we'd just come back from Munich, is that I think the players have talked about getting their anger out their system over 24-36 hours, then get back to the training pitch where they do the real work and get things moving. But if we're having this conversation again on Thursday, it's a different conversation, isn't it? If we repeat the same mistakes, you know, and if we're sitting there with no points from 2 games, then it's a different conversation. This is why are we not following up on all the things we're promising that we're going to do. But I genuinely think those players will go out and be a different team on Wednesday.
They have to be. There's just no two ways about it. But that said, we watched Switzerland last night.
Yeah, they were decent.
And they were better than decent, weren't they?
Yeah, they moved the ball really well, and they've brought in a few guys that out of nowhere. You've got your Manuel Akanjis and Granit Xhaka and Shaqiri on the bench and these kind of boys. Jan Sommer in goals, but then they've suddenly brought these boys in. You go, where did he come from? 26, 27 years old, and guys that have come away from nowhere. That's just good scouting and good coaching, and that's something we've had to do over the years. Is find a Lyndon Dykes or a Che Adams or these kind of guys that you think, where did he come from? And it's a real skill among the kind of middling nations. And Switzerland do it better than most. This is their 6th tournament in a row, and from memory, I think they've qualified for the second round of just about all of them, because they grind away and they do their business, and they're very good at it. So they're really difficult opposition on Wednesday.
They're actually, I would say, the opposite of us as well, because we had a barnstorming qualification campaign. They kind of toiled a little bit, kind of scraped through, got there through, but when they've come into the tournament, it's flipped, and they've been fantastic, whereas we've come into the tournament kind of undercooked.
But they also, in the week leading up to it, they were moaning about the state of the training ground they had, and there was a bit of grumbling in the camp, and you're thinking, I wonder how they'll react. And yet they came straight out of the traps against Hungary, and maybe they're learning. I think they're probably 10 years ahead of us in learning how to be a competition team. They're probably
the benchmark for us, aren't they? Because
I would say so.
They get it done.
Yeah, I think Steve's talked about, and the players have talked about, we're at our best when there's a competitive edge to the game. We found out the other night that's not always the case, but Switzerland have become a very, very competitive team when the chips are down.
Well, as you can see, we're back in Garmisch-Partenkirchen. The sun shines out. We've got our cakes. It does feel like a tournament now, Bill, doesn't it? Last week was a bit dreary. we built up to the game, but we do feel as though we're in a tournament.
And also great moments, like we all went out to, a little Italian restaurant last night to watch the Italy game, and we're sitting there saying, I'm married to an Italian lady, and she's back home with her sister, and they've got all the Italian stuff up, and we're sitting there, this will be great. And it just shows you in tournament football, 24 seconds in, boof, mistake, Albania score. And you think, I wish that had happened to us in Munich. Imagine if we had done that, got up the park and got ahead. We might just have annoyed them, to be fair.
Yeah.
But that's what tournament football's all about.
Yeah, you do feel as though there's going to be big results, big shocks, you know, and Scotland, who knows, we can get it going again. But big performance against the Swiss on Wednesday.
Yes, absolutely.
And it sparks it into life again.
Yeah, and also, we're not alone, because Croatia will be sitting there this morning saying, we just lost 3-0 to Spain. We didn't expect that, you know. So you don't know what's going to happen today. As we speak, Holland are about to play. You know, England play later on tonight. So there's an awful lot to happen in this tournament, and we'll look, and it will be Thursday will be when we start to look back and say, this is where we are, as opposed to where we are just now, which is just disappointed over one result. Yeah,
the good thing as well, we obviously kicked off first on Friday. We've got that extra day to try and get us out of the system. Another day in the training ground, on the training pitch. That maybe helps as well, just to kind of clear the air a wee bit and just get that put to the back of our minds.
I think so. I think the whole thing about being in Group A and playing the first game has been good, because if we manage to come back and get ourselves through into the next round, we'll have maybe 4, 5, maybe 6 days before we play again, and they can really I'm miles ahead of myself here, but it will be a really good chance to reset again and get themselves going.
Yeah, I don't know if you can see behind us the bit of the countryside. You can't really, we're surrounded by mountainsides here. We're talking about maybe doing a wee visit tomorrow morning up one of the
Zugspitze.
The Zugspitze cable car ride. Scotland got a mountain to climb?
Oh, very nice.
Have they?
Well, we've got a massive mountain to climb, but you get the boots on. You know, there was a race here at the weekend called the Zugspitze Ultra Trail, where they started.
Did you take part?
I was going, but we were on the train coming back from.
Pulled my hamstring. I was a bit doubtful.
So they started from here at ground level in Garmisch. They ran up 16,000 feet to the top of the Zugspitze, came back down 16,000 feet the other side, then ran along here. It was about 105 kilometres. It took some people 26 hours to finish, and I would still rather have done what they did than be in the game at Munich on Friday night. I've got to tell you,
well,
that was more painful.
It's not going to take me 26 hours to finish this cake, so we'll be back tomorrow for the latest podcast, and until then, have a good one.